I have a type of utility jacket to share with you today. It's got amazing fitting details and aesthetic details that I know you're gonna love. And I'm so excited to share my purple version with a print lining inside. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today we are diving into jacket sewing. I have said this many times, but jackets are my favorite type of garment to sew. If I could just be a waste of my time and have many more of me, I would sew a jacket every week because that's how much I love making them. I think it's always a garment that's worth your time. And you know, the benefits of sewing for yourself, yeah, what can I say? It's gonna fit you amazing. You're gonna have your best choice of fabric and lining. You add all your personal touch and the options that you really like. I think sewing is always so worthwhile, for sure. Jackets are worth it 100%. Don't be intimidated. And this is a brand new pattern from Itch to Stitch called Winterthur jacket. When I saw the line art, I was excited immediately. This is a type of jacket that I really like. I haven't sewn many of this style, usually because most patterns out there tend to be more boxy, sort of drop shoulder, not many shaping features around there. And at least for me and how I like to dress myself, I want my garments that is usually related to how a garment fits my bust, because although I don't have the largest cup size around, I do have a bust that projects forward, that needs some shaping, and I really appreciate that this jacket has the bust cup sizes and the princess seams that come from the shoulders. Usually when I look at line art, that's what I zero into, like immediately before seeing all the other details. Where is the dart? Where is the princess seam? I always really appreciate anything that will give you shaping around the bust. So tick, that's just a plus, and I love that. I'll just go over the features with you. It is a jacket that has a nice amount of ease, you know, something that you can layer things underneath. It is fully lined, which is amazing. I love patterns that include that because then you don't have to hack that or create your own pieces or your own construction methods. It's all in the pattern, which I think is amazing. I think if you're going to make a jacket like this, I think that the fact that it's fully lined is just amazing. Another way to tick the box for me, because I just love lining things. To finish the neckline, you can add a collar or a three-piece hood. The hood is lined, of course. In this case, I chose to do a collar. As I mentioned already, fitting features, princess seams that come from the shoulders, so you have this curve here, which means that the front has two pieces. Love that. I love these types of princess seams. I think if you do your muslin and you customize, you can get an amazing fit right here that's going to look super smooth, no drag lines, pleats, you know, you're just not going to have that type of fitting issue here. And you have bust cup sizes from A through double D, so I think that's amazing, and I think a lot of people can get a really good fit with those features. So there's no waist seam, it goes all the way down, and the back is really simple. It's got a yoke cut on the fold, the back is cut on the fold, and the way that you shape your waist is with a casing, but the casing is sewn on the inside of the jacket, which I think is really nice, discreet, super neat looking, and it gives you that ability to just pull on the drawstring inside and bring it in at the waist. I think it's really lovely. The length is sort of upper thigh, mid thigh, depending on your height. The shoulders are not meant to be dropped, they're meant to fit your shoulder, which I think is amazing as well. I always like jackets like that. I also do sew drop shoulders, but if I really have to choose, I do like the ones that fit really well the best, and this is the case here. And the sleeves are two-piece. I love two-piece sleeves. I think they always just fit the shape of your arm so much better, the bend. There's less twisting in the jacket. I really love that. And at the bottom here you have these little straps that you can adjust with a button. Actually, when you look at the liner, you see lots of dots. They are snaps. That's how the instructions are made. You're supposed to put snaps everywhere, those metal snaps. Unfortunately, I can't get my hands on those. I have a really hard time finding that type of hardware here in Brazil. I do have plastic snaps that I've used for cardigans and lighter types of knit garments. Totally not appropriate for this jacket. So I just went with traditional buttonholes and buttons. It did slightly change the way I sewed things, but not much really. I think actually doing the buttonholes and buttons can be easier. And I do have metal buttons, so from far away it sort of looks like they're metal snaps. For the pockets, you have patch pockets, but these aren't just a single layer that you fold under and sew. These are lined patch pockets, so there is a lining inside. It makes them super neat and super hard wearing as well. Pocket flaps, so there's some on the chest, some on the hips. You can choose, you know, these are optional features. I really doubted if I wanted the chest pockets, but then I thought, let's just put those on. Those flaps aren't rectangles, they have angles. I really like the shape of those. You also have snaps here to open and close those pocket flaps. The way the jacket closes is with a zipper. And then another feature that I find really cool is that when you finally finish your jacket, you have your zipper there in the center. You have a front flap that covers it. It's a rectangle piece that goes on top. It crosses over, and that's where you have your snaps or buttons. I think that really looks nice, cool, professional, just takes the jacket up a whole other level, and I really enjoyed that feature there. Really love it. I just couldn't wait to make mine. Because the Winterthur jacket is a brand new pattern, it'll be on sale during its release week, and that is until next week, Wednesday the 23rd of November. 20% off as usual. You know, each to stitch patterns have that discount in the first couple of days, so it's a good chance to get it for a little bit less. I think this jacket is totally worth your time and investment, and you know, if you can put all the effort in customizing the fit and making it personal to you with the fabric choice, everything you put inside in the lining, it could really be a piece that would be super special for you that you're gonna wear a lot. I think it's always super gratifying to make a jacket. For me, they are my favorite types of garments to sew. Trying to pass that on to you. I think this one's really worth it because of the details, the feet, the princess seams, the bust cups, the detailed instructions, and I just take my hat off to Kenneth, who is the owner, designer of each stitch, for creating such amazing projects for us. Don't forget to check out my affiliate link in the description box below, and any other content on the channel that I think might help you put this together even further. I always link helpful videos down below. I always have to disclose as well, I am an affiliate. If you purchase a pattern through my link, it doesn't cost you any extra, but part of that sale comes back to me as commission, and that is one way you can support the work that I do here on YouTube. For fabric, it is designed for woven fabrics, medium to heavyweight woven fabrics. It's up to you. You can use a whole bunch of fabrics here, anywhere from denim, linen, canvas, a heavy cotton, maybe even like a suiting or a wool type material. For lining, use a lighter fabric. I used a really lightweight cotton. It was actually a small piece left over from making a shirt, and had just enough for the main pieces, and those are the ones that you see when you look at the jacket. But then for the sleeves, I used a matching color from the main fabric for the lining. With the lining, you also need pieces for those pockets. Remember, the pockets are lined and the flaps. I suggest you find a color that matches your main fabric for lining those pockets, something lightweight. Now, I know a lot of people in the test use some type of quilted lining inside. I think it makes the jacket warmer. I think if you choose to do something like that, you should consider sizing up one size. Remember, the bulkier your jacket or the thicker your fabric, it just eats up away the ease inside the jacket that's being calculated sort of flat with just a lighter material. So consider that if you want to make yours extra warm with a heavier fabric and that type of quilted lining inside. Of course, I'll never do that unless I want to combust. So I've kept my fabric choice typical, I suppose. I've used a linen rayon blend for my main fabric, 55% linen, 45% rayon, 100% cotton for the lining inside. You need a zipper, separating zipper for jackets. Depending on the size you're sewing, anywhere from 26 to 28 inches in length, and I actually had a color that was matching my fabric exactly. Other notions you need are fusible interfacing that is non-stretch. You're going to use that to interface a lot of pieces, you know, pocket flaps, facings, whatnot. You also need a small amount of tricot knee interfacing, the one that's stretchy, that's lightweight, because you're going to use that to stabilize the hems at the bottom of the jacket. So the main pieces, so two types of interfacing, one that doesn't stretch, one that stretches, or fusible or lightweight. If you're doing snaps, you need at least 14 or 15 sets, 8 for all the pockets and then 6 down in the front. If you're not doing the chest pockets, then you need slightly less. I used 14 buttons for mine. The sizing's really good, from 00 to 40 US. It goes up to a 62-inch hip. You do have a nice amount of ease. I've chosen a C cup size. That is my sewing cup size. You calculate that by measuring your upper bust compared to your full bust. I have a 3-inch difference. That makes me a sewing C cup size, which is different to your bra. I've talked about this before. I'll leave you a link down below of a video where I talk about that a lot more. So just make sure you measure. Don't just look at your bra and think that's your sewing cup size. It's not the same thing. At least for the sizes I've chosen, you have about 7 inches of positive ease around the bust. and the hips, and then at the waist around 9 inches. Remember, you're going to bring that in with a drawstring that's going to be inside the jacket, so it's not like you're going to be wearing a sack. You know, it's going to have a nice shape once you pull those strings in, and as much as you want, you know. So it's enough ease to put a layer inside for sure. You don't have to just wear nothing underneath to fit your jacket. And as I mentioned, size up if you want to use a bulky, thicker type of lining for really cold weather, you know. Personal fitting, I did the changes to my pattern pieces before sewing my muslin. Well, most of them. There were things I still needed to check with my muslin. But basically, I blended from a size 14 C cup up here in this area, blended out to a 16 waist and a 16 hip. And that is the blending that I did for my measurements. I lowered my bust apex by 1 inch. Now, these are princess seams that come from the shoulders. You can lower them and change that curve to be lower. If you don't do that, you're going to end up with less ease where your actual bust is, because the curve on the seam is going to be sort of higher, and then yeah, it's just going to be tight here, and you're going to have a lot of excess there if you don't do that lowering, if it's something that you need. Of course, if we're doing a lined garment and there are lining pieces inside, I had to alter the curves of the princess seams inside the lining as well. Inside, for the lining, you have 3 pieces, a facing, one that goes sort of in the middle, and then the side front. So I had to lower the curve and do the exact same process I did on the front with the lining pieces inside, making sure all the notches that are supposed to be at the bust height all match, and that they're all 1 inch lower, because that's what my body needs. I'm just discussing what I did. You know, you might not need to do that. You might need to make it higher, who knows. I do have a video already on the channel showing you how to lower princess seams that come from the shoulders. I will leave that video linked down below so you can see how to do that. That is something I don't even question. You know, most of the patterns I sew, I do have to lower the bust height. So empirically, knowing that it's something I always need to do, I just went ahead and did that to the pattern pieces before sewing my muslin, and then with my muslin I just confirmed that that was correct. I added 1 inch of length to the sleeves. There's shortened and lengthened lines for you to do that. And for the body of the jacket, I kept it the original length because I was limited with my zipper length. I'm taller, you know, in theory I should lengthen the jacket, but I didn't want to. I just leave it like that. So yeah, mine is the original length. I didn't adjust for my height there. So I want to show you the pieces you need to sew your muslin. Don't be scared of doing that. Don't think it's a waste of your time. You don't need many pattern pieces to do that. The sewing of them can be super fast because you're not doing any of the details. I did sew my zipper in. So let's see the pieces, and then let's see how the muslin fit. These are the pieces for my quick muslin. I'm not going to cut them all out and do all the details, but I have the main pieces. This is the back on the fold, that's the yoke on the fold. I'm going to do a single layer of the collar just to see how it lies. Center front, side front, they are the princess seams. And here we have the 2 pieces for just 1 sleeve. So I'm going to set in 1 sleeve because I want to make a sleeveless one eventually. I want the other armhole free to see what I need to tweak on it to get it a little more closed. Now, because this is a fake garment, I have drawn my pocket markings, the original ones from the pattern right here. I've also drawn across the front where the drawstring is going to go on the inside. I just want to compare where that's placed on the pattern in relation to my waist and my body. That's something I want to figure out with the muslin. So this is just going to be a really quick sew, long stitch length, using the 1/2 inch, and I'll be able to try it on. The jacket's pretty long, so I'll show you the fit on the upper part first. I sewed on the collar just to see how that's going to lie, and also to prevent the neckline from gaping. So that is how the collar is going to be. I've sewn on my zipper. What I already did by measuring the pattern was lower the apex by 1 inch. So if I hadn't have lowered it by 1 inch, that mark would be around here, which is not the right place. So I'm glad I did that. So now the fullest part of this princess seam is lower where my bust height is. So I think that's super important with princess seams. And I always typically have to take some away from here on the top of this curve. So this is how it would be. You can see there's a little bit of excess. It's tiny. It's like less than 1/4 inch, starting from nothing here and then just taking some away there. So I'm gonna have to change that curve a little bit, tiny little bit. The other thing with itch to stitch jackets, I usually have to do a narrow shoulder adjustment. You can see it's hanging off my shoulder by a little. There's my shoulder. So it's not huge. I'm gonna do it by 3/8 of an inch. So it'll be a very small change here, but I think it will make a difference. I already added an inch of length to my sleeves. So if I fold this hem allowance away, I did the right thing. I'm gonna have the correct length, otherwise it would be too short. Here is the lower part. It looks long now, but it'll be 2 inches shorter because there's a big hem allowance. It'll reach the upper thigh. This is the original length. I haven't made any length adjustments for my height. I do like this length here. I wouldn't want to make it longer to adjust for my height. You know, like I prefer it to be shorter on me. I prefer a shorter jacket. And I have a fixed length here with my zipper that's 28 inches long. So I really don't want to be making the jacket longer or shorter because then I'll have to mess with the zipper. So I'd rather just leave it the original length there. Although I did lengthen the sleeves, that is something I definitely needed. I have a 14 to 16 waist, 16 hips, and I think I'm happy with this amount of ease. Now it doesn't look like there's much shaping going on there. Maybe you can see the 2 lines I drew there. That's where the drawstring is going to be on the inside, and I wanted to check that that was at my waist, and it is right at my waist right there, and it goes all the way around the back. So the drawstring is going to give it some shape right there. I mentioned I wanted to do a sleeveless one. It's not gaping, it's fine. You know, this is my bust cup, so when I have my bust cup correct, I don't expect there to be any gaping right here. The only thing, I would make it a little narrower up here, probably an inch, and then taper and meet the same curve there so that I get a really good cover. You can see there are chest pocket markings. These are the original ones on the pattern. I think I would drop that by an inch as well to match what I did with my bust apex also. I think that is a little high, so I would just sew them a tiny bit lower, maybe half an inch lower. Over here I have the marks for these pockets. I think these are fine. I can't really put them lower or anything because it'll mess up the hem. So I'm happy with this. This was not a waste of time for me. I think it's really important I made this. I'm happy. So I was generally happy with the fit, everything. Confirmed that the sleeve length was okay, that the bust height adjustment I did to make it lower was okay. I was happy with the marks where the drawstring casing was going to go, was okay at my waist for my body. I was sort of scared it was going to be too high maybe or too low. You never know. And I think those things have to fit really well. And the length, I was happy with that. The only thing I knew that I needed to change further was to do a narrow shoulder adjustment, which is minor. It was only 3/8 of an inch. And it's something I need to do with most jackets from each to stitch. So even if I have the correct cup size, I think I still needed to bring that in a little bit. If you are going to sew just one size, if your measurements on the size chart fit just one, just let's ignore what I'm going to say next. But if you are going between several sizes, I think what I'm going to mention is going to be important, because there are different pattern pieces that are located in different areas of the garment. So for your zipper length, use the size that you're using for your bust. For your chest pockets, also cut the chest pockets in the size of the bust size you're sewing right here. For the hip pockets, I would suggest cutting out the hip size you're using. So if you're using a larger hip size, it's just going to look more balanced in general. For that casing that goes inside for the drawstring at the waist area, cut the piece in the length that you're sewing your waist as. So I'm using a size 16 waist. I cut a size 16 casing so that those match. Super careful with sewing the seam allowance super accurately so that the casing ends up being the correct length. So I spent days and days and days sewing the whole thing in detail, and that's over on my Patreon page. So if you're there at the Orchid Tea, you can have access to the full footage of sewing this jacket from the very start to the very finished in really nice detail. Otherwise, I do have a summary for you here on the channel. Seam allowance is 1/2 inch throughout for the whole project. I'm going to show you the pattern pieces, the way I interfaced, general construction, and
most importantly, I'm going to focus on joining the main and the lining together, the basic steps there. Maybe that's something that you're sort of scared of, the bagging out business, and you're going to see it's not hard to do at all.
The project is just a lot of straight seams, It's a project that you can't do in a day for sure. Takes a few days, just separating the steps by day, taking it nice and easy, dedicating time to them to get them all nice and neat. Super satisfying project. So let's hop in to see some sewing. This jacket uses 2 types of interfacing, and this is the back, that's the center front, and that's the side front. For these 3 pieces, we need to use tricot knit interfacing. Stretchy, as you can see. It's very lightweight. There's no pattern pieces for this interfacing. You need to cut it yourself. You just need to cover 4.5 inches of the bottom of all these pieces. Let me show you up closer with this smaller piece. So you can see up to there, I've cut along the edge, but then I've got extra fabric right here. From this edge up to here, I've measured my line, put tracing paper behind, and just make a mark. I know to place my interfacing there. Starting from that line, I'll interface that, then I'll get my piece back, and then after the interfacing is there, I'll trim away on the edges. So here's one of the pieces. I have already been to the iron and interfaced. You can see there's the black interfacing right along that line I had drawn right there. Both sides, super accurate, and now I'm 100% happy to cut this out properly. I had left a little bit of excess along here. So now this piece is done, and I'll do the same with the bottom of the other two pieces I had shown you. This is basically to stabilize the hem and give it a super smooth look. So this is basically the hem allowance like that. Now I'm using regular non-stretch interfacing for some of the pieces, and these are the patch pockets. They're upside down, and up here on the top you'll see notches there and there. So this section here has to be interfaced. So I've aligned them there so that they're at the same level, and with a tracing wheel I made a line right here underneath, and I have a yellow line. I'm gonna match my yellow line, and I'm just gonna go ahead and fuse this right here. Then I'm flipping it, and I have the same thing on the other side. So now that the top part of the pockets have been interfaced, now I'm happy to cut them out. Here are some smaller pieces that need to be interfaced. Some of them both layers, and others just one layer. So for example, this is the collar, and for this one you just need to interface one of the two pieces. So I have the top one interfaced, and then at the bottom it's not interfaced, but the fabric layers are still together, and I can just cut them together in one go. Make sure they are going to be exactly the same size. Block fusing works really well, and I'm really happy that both are going to be the same size, that I'm not going to have problems with them not matching when I sew, and that they conserve the original shape that the pattern is supposed to have. Also, I find that cutting interfacing really accurately is hard because it just wants to move everywhere. So if I don't have to cut exact pieces and just cut them in whatever shape, I think it's easier to manage. These are the main pieces for the Winterthur jacket, so there's not many of them really. This is the back that's cut on the fold, the yoke that's cut on the fold, the center front and the side front. You can see the bottom edges of these three pieces have a piece of interfacing there that is 4.5 inches tall right here by the width of the piece. This is tricot knit interfacing and will stabilize the hem. Love doing that. This is actually a very long piece. It's going to be the casing that will have the drawstring inside at the waist area there at the very end. This long piece here is the flap that's going to cover the zipper. I've only got one layer interfaced, the one you can see on the top. The bottom layer is not interfaced. On the top there are the collar pieces, two of them. They are exactly the same, cut from the same pattern piece. One is interfaced, one isn't. All these other pieces have to do with the patch pockets. That is a small chest pocket, that is a hip pocket. These have the main layer that's with the linen, and then they're going to be lined. So you won't have raw edges inside. That is the lighter cotton, that is the lining of the pocket. One layer of the pocket flap is the main fabric, and that's interfaced, and then we're going to have a lighter layer, and that's also with the cotton. So there's 4 of these flaps for the chest and for the hips, and the main patch pockets. The chest pockets are optional. If you want to, you don't have to sew them in, but here we have the sleeve pieces, under sleeve, upper sleeve. This is the sleeve hem facing. I love a facing. This is not a rectangle, it does have a shape to it. And these pieces are the button straps. So 2 are interfaced and 2 aren't. These are the lining pieces. I have cut the main lining pieces, the ones that are going to be seen from this really beautiful printed cotton. It's really lightweight cotton, beautiful, and it matches the purple. I didn't have anything left over, so I cut my sleeve lining from a really lightweight cotton. Those aren't going to be seen, so I don't really mind that it's not going to be the same print. So we have the same 2-piece sleeves. The difference with these sleeve pieces is that they are just a little bit shorter than the main pieces. You use the same pattern pieces. It's just that you fold away on the bottom where it says for lining. It's a little shorter. You just fold the paper away. The back is on the fold, the yoke is on the fold, the side front. These are the 2 new pieces that you cut for the lining. This little piece right here is a lining piece, it's not a main piece. And then the facing piece right here. These 2, when sewn together, will be like the center front piece that you have from the main. The facing is interfaced, of course, both layers. And that's it, that's all the lining. To sew this jacket, I'm just going to use a regular polyester thread that matches, strong, nice quality. I buy them in cones like this from here, made in Brazil. And I even have purple top stitching thread. For the main seams, I'll use this universal needle, number 90/14. For the main seams, I'll be using a 3.0, and when I'm top stitching, I'll just increase to 3.5. Okay, so here we have our lining. Everything's ready. And now it's time to sew the zipper. We're sewing the zipper tape to the lining first with a basting stitch, and this zipper has to be facing up, so you should see the zipper pull and you should have the right side of the facing looking up at you like this. So basically this is how I'm going to align this zipper tape right here. Fabric facing up, zipper facing up, and then we pin all the way down. Here there's no mark as to where this should reach. You might have a bit of a difference there with your zipper length. Here is the top of the collar. Behind here I made a little mark with chalk, 3/4 of an inch from the raw edge down, and that's where the top of the zipper is, right there. And then I've just basted this along all the way to the end of this zipper here. Now what I did was take the other side of the facing and align it right here so that they are exactly at the same length, and I put a pin right through the end, and that's the mark I have on the other side. Now what I want to do is pin the other side of the zipper right now. I don't want to separate them. I'm going to place the facing right there. The zipper is flat extended. Now if I flip the zipper to be like this and then fold this as this would be sewn right there, it's really easy to see what to do. So I'm just going to put a pin here just to hold this in place. What we basically need to do now is flip the whole jacket to the other side, and there you can see exactly what you need to pin now. Take this pin out, keep holding it like this, and now we have the other side of the zipper tape right on top of the other side of the facing. If we look up here on the top, we have the zipper right sides up. We've just aligned it to the other side now, but from the wrong side. That's how you do the other side. So I'm going to make sure this aligns here on the top. And then I had made that little mark down below with that pin, and that's where the zipper tape is going to go. And then once both sides are basted on, then I'll just baste it with a sewing machine. Here we have the jacket wrong sides out, and we have basted both sides of the zipper tape in place. This was just done with hand basting, and I know it's going to be at the same level here on the top. It's going to match the collar seam right there, and at the bottom I'm sure that we have the same level with the facing. So I think this is a safe way to sew on zippers rather than separating them and then putting them back together. I think it could be a bit more confusing that way also. By keeping it together, you always see what you're doing and how it's going to turn out. Right sides out, it looks like this. We're just going to baste this on close to the edge here. Long stitch length is just to hold it in place, because the definite stitch will be done when we unite this lining to the main. I'm going to use a zipper presser foot to baste this on the edge, and I'm just using a 4.0 stitch length right here. So you can see there's a nice distance between this edge of the zipper presser foot to the zipper teeth. When I'm actually sewing the real thing, I'm going to have this be right on the edge so that the needle is closer to the zipper teeth. Now I'm going to sew the other side, and to make sure I'm sewing them in the same way, meaning from top to bottom, I'm just going to flip this way and just sew it from this side. Still, I'm going to stay close to the edge here. See, it's fairly close to the edge right here. It's not close to the teeth at all. I'm going to remove these basting stitches. So I've got the jacket right sides out. The zipper has been sewn in. I'm going to take one of these zipper tapes and just extend it like this. You can see that there's some leftover zipper tape here. So what we want to do is choose the side that has the zipper teeth right here and fold the rest diagonally towards the center right here. And I'm going to come back and just give it a quick hand baste to keep it in place. And same as on this side right here. So there's the zipper teeth, the zipper stop. This is the side that you fold away underneath like this, so that all this excess is towards the center right here. Okay, so there are both of the zipper tapes folded away diagonally. So you can see the zipper tape is flat right here against the right side of the collar. This is the way that they were basted, and that is coming from the zipper teeth diagonally into there, so that the protruding bit is at the center front. Now I'm just going to cut some of this away. It's just going to get in the way. And now it's time to unite the lining to the main. I've got my main jacket right here at the ironing board, and what I've done is press up the hem allowance. It's 2 inches from the bottom, so this is just a memory crease for now. So what we need to do now is go and place these right sides together with the lining. I've got the lining on this table right sides up, so I'm just going to move it up a little. Here we see the bottom edge of the lining, and we're going to place our main jacket on top, right sides together. So we are going to align the bottom edge of the lining and the main and sew it together with 1/2 inch seam allowance. We need to make sure the side seams match here and the center fronts match, and it'll be just a really nice straight long seam. This is just a really long straight seam. There's nothing hard going on here. We're just uniting the main jacket to the lining, but only on the bottom at this stage. Now that this has been united, what I'm going to do is go to the iron and press the seam allowance up towards the lining. So that is already pressed and set, ready to go for later. Then we're going to attach the center fronts, including the collar. Okay, so I've been to the iron and I've pressed the seam up towards the lining, and I have aligned the center fronts with the collar down this end, and I've given it a hand base. I want to show you what happens at the bottom here. Remember we had done that memory crease? So you need to find where that memory crease is, and the fabric is right sides together at this point. So just find where that crease is, and that's going to be the bottom. You can see how the hem allowance comes over here and you have that seam there. So when you align it like this, where that crease is right at the bottom, if you keep aligning all the center front, you'll get to the very top and it's 1 to 1. So here's the collar that matches right there. These seams of the collars match, and you just keep pinning until you get to the bottom like that. It's the same on the other side. The memory crease for the hem, it's folded up that way, and that's how everything is going to match. I made sure before hand basting that these were matching exactly. So if I fold these together here and align them, in between there you can see the zipper tapes from both sides. I wanted to make sure they were exactly at the same level so that everything's even and you don't have one higher than the other. So that was really important. So it took a while to just align everything, but it's basically just straight seams now. I've done this by hand basting to not deal with all the pins. And now we're going to pick up here, go all the way up. We're going to do that with a zipper presser foot. And at the top, we're going to sew across the top of the collar and then sew all the way down. If you were doing the hood, then this would be exactly the same. Instead of the collar, you would have the hood, and so you keep going up and around to the other side. But I'm doing the collar in this case. So this will sort of close up the whole jacket. And once we've done that, we're going to find the side seam that has that area where it's just basted. It's this side where I have a longer stitch length. We're going to open that up again, and then we can pull the jacket through there. So I've got my zipper presser foot there. I've moved the needle to the left so I can get closer to the zipper teeth. And I'll just start sewing this from the very bottom. To sew across the collar, I've changed it back to the presser foot there. I still do an intersection of seams anyway, so it's not like I'm pivoting, but it's easier for me to see the proper seam allowance here with a normal presser foot. Now I'm putting the zipper presser foot back and moving the needle further to the left. Okay, I've removed all the basting stitches, so that's all ready. Now we're going to put the sleeves together. So make sure you have the sleeve out, and same as the lining, that they're not tucked inside. On the lining, I've marked with a white chalk right here the seam that matches the side seam, the one that's underneath the arm, not the seam that's on the top of the sleeve. Remember, this is a two-piece sleeve on the lining and on the main. Here on the main we have a facing. The facing only has one seam. And this is the seam that's underneath also, the one that matches the side seam. So now it's going to be easy to join them. So we're at the sewing machine and we have the seam of the main, the one that goes underneath, the one that matches the side seam. If you continue that way, it's going to match the side seam. Remember, you're not looking at the seam of the main that's been top stitched. That one's not the one you're wanting to match. I marked the same seam of the lining sleeve so it'll be easy to join them together. So I've got them both wrong sides out, but I can join them so that they turn out right sides together. And what you do is just put the lining inside, matching these two seams. I've got my white mark so I know. This is super important to get the right seams together so it doesn't end up twisted. So I'm just going to make sure these match. And then I'm just going to go around here, putting the lining sort of tucked in there. And then we can just sew these on the round here on the bottom. Here's the other seam of the sleeve. And if you look up here, you can see the seam is there, but not on the facing piece. But they are sort of in the same place. So these will match 1 to 1. And there we have it. We have the lining sort of tucked in there so that they're touching right sides together. And now we can sew this on the round. Okay, so we have it all sewn together. We just leave it like that, and then when we bag the jacket right sides out, then this is going to make sense. And now I have my side seam here. Remember, I sewed with a normal stitch length up to there, and then I have a 6-inch section with a large stitch length. So that area is being reinforced already, so I just have to pick up the large stitch length and open this up. Super easy because I did it with a 5.0 stitch length. And now we have an opening to bag our jacket through. There's no special technique, it's just about pulling little bits of the jacket out at a time, and it'll all come out through here. I just like tugging it and letting the weight of the jacket pull itself out. Looks like a hot mess, but it's come out of the opening. Everything has come out, and now we need to just pull the sleeves out like this, the main sleeve, and it's going to come out with the lining sleeve in there. And the same as this other side, just pull the main sleeve out, push the sleeve lining inside to go with it. We have this opening on the side seam where we can reach in and turn the corners out nice and neatly. So I'm just going to get this corner here and just fold it back really neatly so it's nice and crisp. So we just need to tidy up the corners. You still have this opening to put your hand in and fold out the corners at the bottom, fix the collars right there. There are certain things we need to do inside with the collar, just a few details, and then we can close this up right here. I'm here at the sewing machine, but I'm not going to sew by machine. What I want to do is put my hand in through here and find the 2 seam allowances of the collars. And so I basically want to go in there and see them. So the easy way to do is to find these shoulder seams and match them. So I'm going to put a pin through one seam and come out through the other so that they're at the same place right here. And I'll just keep pushing this sort of partially out until I find the next shoulder seams here and pin them together here. So what I want to do is basically just unite these 2 seams right here. The seams from the main collar and the seams from the non-interfaced collar. This is the lining, this is the main. I want them to stay together inside. And to do this, it's really easy. You just take a needle with thread. You don't need to do any fancy stitching at all. It's just like a basting stitch sort of thing. It just is going to hold these 2 seam allowances together inside, and then they're not going to be wobbling around. And I'm just going to do this on the back area of the collar, and I'm sewing a little off the main seam right here. Of course, I don't want this to be seen. And here is the other shoulder seam. Then I'm just going to push everything back, and now when we touch our collars, they are together here in this area. They're not going to be opened up and flopping around everywhere. And it's only in this section where there was the curve from one shoulder to the other. These are together. We need to do a little tiny stitch to hold these shoulders in place. So right where the shoulder meets the sleeve of the lining, I've put a pin through and come out right through the other side on the main jacket. So I'm just going to go in there with the thread right there and come right out here. I've got a matching purple, so no one's going to see it. I'm going to take this pin out of the way. So I've got my thread coming out through here, and I'm going to come out a little further away and come out through here on this side. So I'm going to do a tiny little tug here just to hold these 2 layers together. So from the inside you can barely see it, from the outside you can't see a thing. And now these are together and they're not going to move anywhere. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on this side. I have my pin there, matching the seam right there, and I'll do the same type of hand tacking. Now I'm going to close the opening on the side seam, and I'm going to just take tiny stitches from each side and close this up. I've changed my color to match the lining, and just make it as discreet as you can. It'll be inside, no one will see it, but you do want it to be nice and discreet. I came out here to show you my gorgeous Winterthur jacket. Quite a lot of details here. It's a purple linen. I love this color, but just imagine the most royal tone of purple. That's the real color. I opted to do the collar version. There is a hood version also. I find that although I love hoods aesthetically, I love how they look, I love sewing them, I do sew them, they're just not that practical for the type of weather that I get. Like, I'm not going to cover myself to get any warmth, you know, it's hot here pretty much year round. So I thought, let's just be practical and actually just sew what is most practical to me, which is a regular collar. Also, the excess fabric that you have around here in your neck, it really makes me hot when I don't want to be hot. So collar it was. Although the sewing steps are really similar. On the front, I opted to sew in the patch pockets on the chest. Those were optional. So they are just a little bit smaller than the patch pockets here on the hips. These pockets are lined, so it's not just one layer that you fold under and sew on to the front. You do line that patch pocket first, and I love that. And then you have flaps. On the underside, I have a lighter weight cotton that's purple that matches. And it's the same type of fabric I used inside. Super neat inside. For me, it was important that the fabric was as close to the color of the main fabric as possible, because it's always possible sometimes to see a peak of the other color underneath there. If you wanted to have fun, and for example, if I'd use this color under here, I think there's a risk of it being seen, and I never want that. I want my clothes to look as clean as possible, and I don't want another type of print to clash with whatever I'm wearing with the jacket. So that is my reasoning there. I don't have snaps. I can't find them. I don't have the tools. Those metal snaps, I found those really cheap, tiny plastic ones, but those are not appropriate for this project. So I did buttonholes, and I've used golden metal buttons instead, and I think they look really pretty. The way that you sew the pockets is the same, both for the smaller chest pockets and the larger hip pockets. So it wasn't one of the most complex parts of the jacket at all. But to get them as neat as I want them to be, I think it was sort of the lengthiest process here. Here is the hip pocket and the pocket flaps right there. For me, pockets are always decorative. I'm never going to put anything inside. So I do them as neat as I can so that they look beautiful, because that's what I want them to be, just beautiful, not functional. Here is the princess seam that comes from the shoulder. That I top stitched. I did use a purple top stitching thread. I had real good care with it because I only had one spool. So I sewed most of the seams with that for the top stitching, but the princess seams was one of them. Now the curve here is slightly lower to match my shape. The curve here, I dropped it by an inch. That was important for my own personal fitting. Otherwise, the length of the jacket is the original length. Super pretty. And at the back you have a yoke that you can see there. That's been top stitched, and the back is just one piece on the fold. So sewing together the back is super simple compared to the front, which has two pieces and the patch pockets. The sleeves are a two-piece sleeve, easy to set in. You know, there is a bit of ease on the sleeve cap, but not excessive. And at the back you have that seam that unites the undersleeve, which is the smaller piece, to the upper sleeve, and that's been top stitched. At the bottom you have this little detail, which I think is super cute. And then what I think is really cool about it is this front flap. So it's a piece that you sew on at the very end, and it covers the whole zipper. I mean, I'm gonna wear this open all the time, let's be honest. But I think this was a really nice addition. It just makes the jacket look so much more polished and high-end, in my opinion. Here, of course, you could put snaps, but I just did buttonholes instead. These are top stitched right there. This is top stitched. It's one of the very last steps. Like, you think you're done with the jacket and you have to do the front flap. But that's really nice. The zipper there is enclosed within everything. I had a purple zipper, so that was amazing. And I didn't alter the length of the jacket to not mess with the length of my zipper. So even though I'm taller, I'm fine with the length that this jacket has on me. And then inside, it's just so gorgeous. You have a facing, and then two pieces more for the lining on the front. The back is really simple. The drawstring casing is sewn on inside. I did a buttonhole to push my cord through. Now this is a cord I found in my son's room. I think he pulled it out of some joggers, I don't know. But he didn't claim it, so I thought it was nice. And I used this instead of making my own drawstring. And I had been saving these little contraptions for months. I don't know where I found them, but I only had two of them, so that's what goes in there, and that's how you can adjust. It's so neat on the outside and it's such a gorgeous jacket. I mean, the lining is just everything. I've got my little label in there. For the sleeves, I didn't have enough of the print, so I used purple like cotton fabric in there. That's really nice. The important thing about the lining, which I love, is that it's got that vertical ease. So at the bottom, you see that you have a little fold. So the lining is a little longer inside. That means that it's never going to pull the jacket up. And inside here as well, when you look, the hem of the sleeve is finished with a facing, and you can see that the lining sort of blouses over in there, which means that you're always going to be comfortable. So it's a gorgeous jacket. I think it's one of the proudest makes I've got. I think it looks like I've got snaps, but I don't. And I just love it so much. So beautiful. Perfect for this in-between weather right here. And yeah, highly recommend. It's so pretty. I styled it super simple with colors that you might not expect. So let's see. Here is my Winterthur jacket. I've only made one in this opportunity. It's my dream jacket in a purple tone. This is a linen rayon blend, structured medium weight fabric, and I really love this color. Paired it with green accessories here, and I love the combination of green and purple. Basic black jeans. I really like this length on me. It's at the upper thigh. I didn't make any length adjustments to the jacket as such, but I did make the sleeves a little longer. Here you can see it zipped up, although I will never wear it zipped up. It's got a drawstring that brings it in at the waist, and instead of doing metal snaps, I just have regular buttonholes and golden buttons. I think they look really cute. These pockets are lined. I've got them on the hips and on the chest, and at the sleeve you have a little tab there with a button. I think it's really cute. Here you can see my lining inside, and I have a drawstring with an adjustable piece there where I can adjust it. Here on the top you can see some details of the patch pockets on the chest. They are optional. I decided to put those in, and you can see the front flap that covers the zipper. Really love how that looks. It's really clean. On the back I have a yoke. It's been top stitched. The back is simple compared to the front, and here's a closer look at the patch pockets there. They are the same as the hip pocket. I also have a princess seam that comes from the shoulder. It's a C cup. There are cup size options, and I think the fit is superb. It's amazing. I really love the jacket. It was a project that was really worth all the time it took, and I can't wait to make it again, maybe sleeveless. Yeah, I just love it so much. The lining inside makes me really happy, and I know I'm gonna wear this a lot. My favorite color, or what's not to love. This is a really amazing pattern. What can I say? Just looking at this makes me so happy. It's so beautiful. I mean, in my eyes, it's my favorite color, one of my favorite colors. The lining is gorgeous inside. I think it makes it even more pretty, even though no one's gonna see it because, you know, you don't see the lining when you wear your garments. When I look at it, oh my gosh, it's just so pretty. The label is pretty. I sewed my label onto a piece of linen first and then sewed that onto the yoke so that you could see it. Otherwise, in the print, you wouldn't really see the label. It says lifting pins and needles there. Lovely subscriber sent me these labels, and I'm so grateful because I'd never been able to make any for myself here. Anytime I tried, it was like the companies that do this here, it's for business owners. There was like, it was always a dialogue of, do you want 1,000? Do you want 2,000? And I was like, what? I can't order like 100? They're like, no. So yeah, so nice. I'm saving them for special projects like this. And I'm just I'm just beaming. It's just so beautiful. The drawstring, the fitting, the princess seams, the pockets. It's just so lovely. So lovely. So I definitely want to make a sleeveless one that is unlined, that is maybe going to be a little shorter. Just a simplified version. I really want to do that. Impossible to get it done for this pattern release, but I love it so much. I think it'll definitely be worth my time to make another one. Probably in a green linen or a navy linen or black, I don't know. But yeah, this is just amazing. Highly suggest you take on a project like this. So nice. So worth your time, so satisfying, and it's something that you're going to wear a lot and that you're going to be proud of making. I always say that. I think once you get into sewing jackets, you could get really hooked because they're just so amazing to sew up and to wear afterwards. And all the time and resources that you invest in them are really going to be worth it because they are garments that you're going to wear a lot compared to like a dress that you just wear every now and then, you know. These are great. I'm so happy with mine. Remember, I have the full sew along on Patreon if you want to join my page. You can join and leave the page whenever you want to, but if you do want to support my work there, I have amazing sewing content there that you can access that is not here on the channel. It is one of the ways that I make an income by doing what I do, so I welcome you to join my Patreon page. I will leave the link down below so you can check out the details. Don't forget that the Winterthur jacket is on sale this first week through next Wednesday the 23rd. Grab it for 20% off. I think you really enjoy it. The fitting is amazing, instructions are great, and I hope the content I showed you here helps you as well. That's all from me today. I will see you again with more sewing very soon. Bye.